All right, I'm gonna go through and watch a few more races here and give my comments as they occur. Now, I have started watching this race here, and we're just gonna bring it up. We're gonna mute this, which it is. Here's something that I am not necessarily a big fan of watching. Is this when a crew has a big lead like this, and obviously water conditions are going to play they're going to play a part in what you end up seeing and how these boats look when they're coming down. But these guys are way ahead, and they're just cruising in, right? They're taking it down. They're going to probably keep a little power on the end of the blade, but they're going to lower the rate, and they're going to lower the intensity that they've got. So to me, this is where you see what that crew is really capable of when they're just focused on managing the boat and setting it up and really feeling the rhythm and how that boat can lock into its ideal path. Okay, so we watch this here. Look at the blades. Watch the hull. So we see here there's a lot of moving around. Look at the blades. They're not lining up. There's wobble. So this is, see there, coming off the release, it wasn't super clean. See again, stroke seat was kind of trapped on the water. So when I see that, we see here the boat is a little off balance. So when I do see something like this, that causes me a little bit of concern, because I say this is an ideal situation. This is where they can all just sit there and really enjoy the moment and focus and show what they're capable of. This is where they can say to the people that are on shore that they may be racing later and that are watching them come down as they're scoping out the competition. This is where you can say, okay, everybody, pay attention to us. We're a major player. Look what we are capable of. And this boat doesn't look like they are capable of, the highest level of performance, I'll say. See, look at that. Again, lots of wobble on that hull. That's not saying they're not good. It's not saying they're not talented and that they're not fast, right? Because again, you get the best people in the world are going to have issues, right? They're going to have technical issues. They're going to have glitches. It's just the nature of the beast, right? Especially when you're dealing with wind and waves and everything else. But in a case like this, I would like to see more. I would like to see something where they're able to lock that stability in better, where they're able to unify the blade height and just really pull it together to showcase the peak of their ability, where they're able to bring it across in a real showcase fashion. And here we're not really seeing that. Now that could just be because they're saying, we've got this in the bag, and they're not as locked in as they should be, and maybe their ability to kick it up is significant. But my inclination is that they will probably not be one of the top crews to challenge for this, and then when they come up against some of the better crews, they may actually find that they are found a little bit wanting. But again, that's not insulting them, and that's not meant to say that they are a bad crew at all, because they're not. If they're there and they're winning a race by this much, they are a good crew. They are going to be moving fast. Okay, so here we are in the in one of the quads races here. I think this is junior boys. It is on the far side, it's Maidenhead, and then on the close side, it's Miami. This is just after the start. So we're just going to look at through the drive here, because these boats both took off pretty quick, and they're both looking pretty decent. So here we go. I'm looking at the close boat here right now, and they have pretty good positioning, I think, at the catch, right? And I like this guy's positioning here. I think he could get a little bit more compression, meaning get those shins a little closer to 90. See, look at this guy, right? Body's tall, head is up, arms are nice and extended, good compression. This looks pretty good. This guy needs to raise his chin a little bit, but this looks pretty solid. This is a well-positioned crew. Okay. The one thing I don't like, though, when they start going, look how much change in angle there is for the upper bodies here, right? They open up a lot. So they've got a nice forward pivot here, but pretty early that angle starts changing. And now they're actually pretty much straight up and down here, with still a lot of leg left to go in a lot of these cases, right? This guy's getting a little bit better engagement with the legs, but there's a lot of upper body being used, and by upper body I'm including the torso, not just the arms and shoulders, etc. Right? So we want to think Keep that drive down in the lower body. Keep it through the hip, right? Push that hip back. Use the quads, use the glutes, use those big, strong lower body muscles and drive it back. Don't open against it so much, right? Especially since they have such a good, strong position right at the catch. They're setting themselves up to actually have a really, really nice press against those legs and pick that boat up. And you can see they're currently leading, so they are having a good performance. They are moving the boat pretty nicely. My concern when I see something like this is long-term is injury, because you're taking a lot of weight on the body, and over time stuff is just going to start breaking down. So I don't like to see that from crews. I like them to think of the biomechanics and really work in a way that's going to keep them as secure and as safe as possible while getting the best possible return for that energy investment. Now, we're going to go to the FAR crew. Oh, sorry. The other thing that I think of, I almost forgot to mention the second thing. The second thing is that since you are putting that weight on the smaller muscle groups, my expectation is that this crew might burn out a little bit, right? They might go off really, really fast. Let's say once they get 3/4 of the way down the course, they might start feeling the burn a little bit more because the smaller muscles will have been overtaxed. And it might just make them fade out a little bit as they get closer to the end of the race. Again, I don't know how this is going to turn out. They may freaking storm through the whole thing. Here we go, FAR crew. Again, not bad positioning, right? They've got pretty straight backs. We're not seeing a lot of rounding. They're not collapsing too much. And as they press it through, we see here through that leg drive, we see them maintaining that forward pivot better through that leg drive. So I think that this crew, although they're currently not beating these guys, we might see these guys hang in there pretty decently because they're utilizing the muscle groups in a very effective way. Look at that arm hang. This is nice. Positionally, these guys are very sound, right? Very sound. Whoever has coached these guys, I think, has done a very good job based on what I'm seeing right off the start here anyways. And these athletes have done a good job by really paying attention to the dynamics of it. See, look at this. Through this drive, right? If we sort of go back and forth like this, and we look at the angle of shoulder to hip on that FAR crew, that's Maidenhead, I believe, we don't see that body angle change very much at all, right? We don't see that body angle change very much at all. And that's what we want to see. We want to see through that leg drive here. Boom, 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 legs. Now when the legs are almost done, boom, now they can start to lay back against it. And look, as they're laying back, look at that 3-seat. As he's laying back, he's still hanging those arms, right? And now they start to draw it in, right? I think they could draw it in a little bit more, and they could keep that that draw a little bit higher up here in the back to squeeze those shoulder blades together a little bit through the release to really get that final snap as they come to the body. But they're looking pretty solid. These guys are looking pretty solid too, right? Positionally, they're pretty solid. They just open up too early. They need to hold that body angle a little bit more, let the legs take the load. We'll see how it goes. Again, who knows what's going to happen. But my concern for these guys is just that they might end up with a little too much burn as they get to the later stages of the race. All right, so I think this is the Diamond Jubilee Skulls. It's the girls high school quads, I believe. This is Shiplake and Shawnigan Lake School. Shawnigan Lake's from Canada. Shiplake here obviously is from England. Shiplake, historically, as I've said before, I like Shiplake. I think they are generally very well coached, really sound crews. So I would always look at them as somebody that, you know, you have to look to beat these guys if you want to compete. Now, as we come up to the catch, here's what we're looking at. These guys have that bit of sort of swoop and hesitate when I see that. See how the blades come? They're kind of low to the water here. They don't have a tremendous lift on those blades right now. As they come up, see here the hands start to drop a little bit. Boom, boom, boom. The hands are going down and then the blades come up. I don't like that. As I've said before, we're seeing vertical motion. It's not good. Here they come into pretty good alignment. So when you're in this alignment, look at this. Why not just get that alignment, that blade uniformity right off the release? If, boom, you have the extraction, you set the hand heights to here, then you never have to change anything. You've already solved that issue. But here, they don't. So now we see here We've got blades at kind of different levels, slightly different heights, etc., right? And that we all then have to change. We have to have vertical motion to bring that into alignment. Now, what I mean by this sort of swoop and go is they swoop up to get to the proper height. Then they hesitate, and then they row it in a little bit, right? They slap at the water. They row those blades in rather than grab and push, okay? And to do that, we're going to look at the point of maximum compression. So for that, we're looking when the shins stop moving. Okay, we're going frame by frame. There we go. So the shins moved a little bit there, but now they're not. Okay, now those shins aren't really moving. They're at that point of maximum compression. So now, boom, 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 boom. So we're looking at called 4 frames here. 1, 2, 3. Right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 frames for stroke seat to get that blade buried. Now, the reality is that blade should be buried, boom, right there. That's where we want that blade buried for all of them, right? Because that is at that point of maximum compression. So a lot of times we'll see people, they take photos of rowing, and there's something that I call the picture-perfect stroke. And by that I mean, you see this crew, they're at this position, and snap, here's the photo. And they post this on their wall, and they say, look at this freaking boat. This looks so good. Okay, and you've got it hanging on your wall, and people look at it, and they say, wow, that is amazing. That looks so marvelous. But it's only perfect in the picture, because in the actual stroke, it's not perfect, right? At this point here, these blades want to be buried, because now if these blades are buried here at that point of maximum compression, that's when we can instantly start driving. We don't have any wasted time at the catch, because when we're up here, we've just put all of our weight against there, and just like we jump on that scale and we land, and it gives us a number, right? We may be 150 pounds, but when we land hard on that scale, boom, it suddenly shows up to 220 or whatever number it might be. That's what's happening. We're putting that 220 pounds, let's say, on these foot plates. Obviously, it's not 220. I'm just pulling a number out of the air. But it's a heavy number. It's a heavy number. They've just crashed all that weight here. And rather than say, okay, we've slowed the boat down in a big way, we need to pick it up, bang, now. They're just saying, okay, we're going to stay here and let that boat continue to travel along at a nice slow rate of speed. Don't do it. Get the blade in by this point. You should be lifting those hands as you're approaching the catch, not when you get there, but as you get there, so that that blade is buried and locked and ready to go as soon as you hit this point of compression, and you can push it away and get instant acceleration. So when I look at the Shiplake crew, who I generally like Shiplake, right? And again, this crew doesn't look bad. This crew is not a bad crew. They have some timing issues right here, but they're still going to be a very good crew, right? They're still a very good crew. But there's an area where they could absolutely get more speed off the top end of that stroke, right? 100%. Okay, here's something else that I don't like seeing from the Shiplake crew. As we draw it in, I shouldn't say from the Shiplake crew, from one person in particular, if we look at 2-seat, right? We draw it in, and now look at bow seat and 2-seat. We're going to look at how they move out of bow, okay? Look at this. Bow seat, her arms, look at that. She's already extending those arms. She's getting the body pivoting out over, and we compare the position here now of 2-seat to bow seat. Okay, she's already even getting some of her forward pivot. So she's doing, in my opinion, a very good job. She's getting through that release motion nice and quick with the body and the arms. She's setting everything up. Here, it's much more sort of lollygagging, right? And this is one of the issues, and I'm going to talk in a broader sense. This is one of the broader issues that I have with the notion of kind of pause at the release that has become fashionable over the last, and I say fashionable not as, not in a derogatory fashion, although it's something I disagree with. It's just, it's sort of taken over a technical point over the last number of years in the sport, where it's kind of, oh no, just kind of stop and let the boat run at the release. The problem is that people tend to want to stop there anyways. And if you have them stopping there, it reinforces something about them being, I'll say, lazy about getting out through the release. So I'm not a big fan of it myself. I like this. Get the arms out, get the body pivoted over, and then you can just relax. Let everything settle in and enjoy the ride up the slide as you get to the catch, right? You can prep everything. You can just really feel that relaxation. Have a nice good exhale on your way into the compression point, and then pick the boat up again and take your next stroke. But so now we see disparate forces, disparate positioning. As we come up, look at the blades. The blades are at very different angles here, right? Look at 2 seats blade to this one, 2 seats blade to this one, right? So we don't see uniformity of angles that we would like to see. So basically, from what I've seen so far, I would say that Shawnigan here probably has a little bit of an edge because there are some issues here. I haven't really looked at the Shawnigan crew much though yet. We'll see what happens as they go down. My issue is that Ship Lake, I know the people generally are very fit and they hold up well, right? They hold up well through the race. You don't see a lot of Ship Lake crews fade out and collapse. So I don't know if Shawnigan's going to do that or not. And that they've come across from Canada again. They might be a little bit extra jazzed off the start, so they might be going out just a little too hard. We'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. Okay, so we're a little bit further down in the race right now, and I've had a little bit more time to look at the Shawnigan crew, and I'm not sold on them. See, we look here, we go through the drive, look at the difference in body angles, so they're all taking kind of different strokes, and that's not going to be well for unified power application. It's going to sap some of their energy, make sure that they're not hitting the maximum possible acceleration and speed through the drive. Off the release here as well, we're going to watch 2 seat. 2 seat comes out, and look at this. They just basically lay these blades down on the water. And the reason I'm saying 2 seat here is because we see, oh, sorry, bow seat there. Bow seat's blade just drags, okay? And then what happens is we drag, we kick up that extra splash. 2 seat comes through here, boom, they end up hitting it as well. So this is not clean. When you don't have a clean release like this, it's just going to slow you down, right? Every time you drag that blade, you're running with the brakes on, okay? It's no good. Every time you kick up a bit of a wash that catches the person ahead of you, their blade's going to hit it. That's going to slow you down, and it's going to knock the balance off on the boat. Even if it's just a little bit, you have to make adjustments then to re-solidify the stability. It's not a good thing, right? So you want a much cleaner release than that. And like I say, they've got different blades. We're going to see some timing issues here. See, look at the timing issues on these entries. And then again, we look at the body angles. We're seeing differences in how they're applying that force, right? So I would expect that they are going to have maybe a bit of a tough slog, but we'll see how it goes, right? We'll see how it goes. They might power through this thing. They might pull it together a little bit and show that they're capable of moving on to the next round. Okay, so again, we have right off the start here, we're going to mute this, and we're going to look at these guys here, and we just see a difference in the way that these crews take their start. So this one here is going to be a much shorter stroke, and look at how much arm this guy here in 3 seats already adding, right? So that means right now the handles are out accelerating the slide. That means this start is done by arms for this guy especially, rather than the legs. So that's not going to be quite as powerful as it could be, but even more so, it's going to wear those muscles out very quickly, right? And that's something that you're going to end up feeling, you know, halfway down the course, 2/3 of the way down the course. You're going to start to feel those muscles crying out in agony because they were overtaxed early on, and that's very short. So they're going to try to push that rate up a lot. And I'm not a big fan of keeping it short like this. I like keeping that good solid layback, right? Whereas we look at these guys here, and they still keep that layback. I still think they should actually draw it probably a little bit more to the body with the hands, but their layback position looks like they're keeping that engaged a little bit longer in the water. I like that. I think that allows you to really utilize the body and the torso muscles a little bit more and really get a good engagement. I think that's something that's going to set you up very well for as you proceed down the water, because you're not overtaxing the small muscle groups. You're utilizing the big, strong muscle groups in an effective manner. You're using the body as it's designed to be used, right? It's like a baseball player when he takes a swing. He doesn't just whack away at it with his arms because the arms aren't designed for it. What you do is you sort of pivot through the hips, then the torso follows, and then finally the bat comes around with the arms. You're using those lower body muscles to generate the force. In a case like this, these guys here, they're going to crank the rate up a lot. They're going to go out and, again, they might actually be the faster crew. I don't know. I have no idea about either of these crews. But I don't like it. I don't like changing your stroke, and I don't like putting excess force on the small muscles, which are not designed to handle it. Use those big muscles. Just let the start happen rather than, freak out and go crazy on the start. The start should be strong, it should be quick, it should be engaged, you should be absolutely going 100%. But that doesn't mean you rush through it. Just enjoy the start, enjoy those strokes, feel that boat getting up to speed, moving, locking in. How are my legs pushing that away? How is the slide feeling through the drive? Am I accelerating that body over the hips? Am I still opening up that chest as I draw the handles to the body? These are the things that you want to kind of be focusing on through that start, because that's what this is your chance to really lock it in right from the beginning, so that each stroke thereafter you're always building on something rather than just spinning your wheels a little bit, in a vain effort to try and maybe get a quick jump on the competition. That quick jump on the competition is not worth it if you end up doing things that are going to ultimately, halfway down the course, start coming back to bite you in the butt. Okay, now after saying something that I liked about this Texas crew, I'm going to say something that I don't like. I liked how they kept it a little longer off the start, but we can see some tension here in the shoulders, right? Stay relaxed, just keep sitting tall, nice and relaxed, let the arms hang. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm going to talk about here is how far they draw it in. So look at this. To me, this guy here especially is cutting that stroke short, right? He needs to open up. See how he looks a little slumpy here, right? Same with stroke seat. They look a little slumpy. Bow seat looks better, right? He's got a layback. His chest looks open. His head is up. These guys are kind of slouching in. Their shoulders look a little bit rounded around the shoulder girdle, right? So they could probably get more power through each stroke if they squeeze those shoulder blades together around the spine a little bit, engage those lats, engage the traps, etc. Keep it coming in and really let those shoulders pass the torso, right? Open it up. As we come to that release, really think of it's almost like you're Superman, okay? And you've got your hands on your shirt and you tear it open to expose that S, right? You think about how the shoulders are going to go back, the chest is going to come forward, and it's really that heroic pose. And the reason it is that heroic pose is because it's a very powerful position to be in. So as you draw that handle to the body, that's what we want to feel. We don't want to just feel the arms sort of getting to the body. We want to feel everything driving to around the spine, driving back, opening up and squeezing around that spine. Utilize those big muscles. That's what we want to see. And we're not really seeing it from this crew here as much as I think that we could. All right, same race further down the waterway. We're going to look at 3-seat here in this boat. So as they come by, we're going to watch how early these arms start to bend through the drive. See, look at that. Right away, we're seeing those arms bend. We see here pretty decent hang. We see nice hang here. But these arms are bending. That's way too early. That's going to have the biceps taking the weight. We're not letting the quads, the glutes, all these good strong muscles, right, of the lower body, the legs, the hips, etc. They're not able to take that weight because the part that's moving fastest is always the part taking the weight. And in this case, those handles are out accelerating the slide. They're out accelerating the hip. So that means the weight is up here, right? You're not going to generate enough power to hold off the best crews by putting it on the arms, right? Let those arms hang. Zeno Mueller describes it very well, actually, when he says you want to be, hanging like the shoulders, they're hanging off the torso, okay? And that's what it is. You're just hanging there. They're almost getting pulled forward. So it's kind of like if you take your right hand and you grab your left wrist and then you stretch it as far away from your body as you can. You pull it as far, and you're going to feel that stretch across your upper back. That's almost what you want to feel when you take that stroke, because those arms are almost going to get pulled out of the socket. Sorry, I just bumped the mic there as I'm doing the demonstration here. They're almost going to get pulled out of the socket from the force of that drive, and they're just able to stay connected onto that handle. Then as you lay back against it, you're going to start sort of feeling the core take that weight and brace against it, and we're going to really be able to start drawing those handles back towards the body with the big strong back muscles. This is way too much arm. They're gonna poop out. They're gonna be feeling like they're having a bad day, those arms, right? If he keeps taking the weight with them like this, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to take it with the small muscles. I do like these shots, okay, these camera angles, because you can really see how well a crew is working with their blade work. Okay, so we see a little bit of discrepancy there, but through the drive here, we see pretty good uniformity. We see decent, like that one there was much better coming up. So these guys are doing a decent job, right? Look at this as we watch this. This is pretty good. This is pretty good uniformity. Then we compare it over here, and we look at how the blade angles are over here, and we see, look at this. There's very different levels going on as we come through. See, look at the difference in how look at the stability on that boat, right? So they are starting to struggle. They are starting to struggle over here. These guys have been kind of pulling it together through the race. Good job for them. All right, so this is the Temple Challenge Cup, I think it is. Here's Princeton B. Just want to highlight this here. They take this stroke. This is something that I really like seeing. Look at this extraction. Boom. We can see full blade, full blade, full blade. The bottom comes up to meet the top, right? Look at that. They come up to meet the top. This guy hung on maybe a little long, or this guy got it around pretty good. These guys hung on maybe a little longer than I would like to see, but boom, look at that. They bring it up. That blade height is nice. They set it in. Now they come up, and they don't have to do much changing at all to prep those blades to take that next catch. They're maybe a little bit late here on the catch. I think they could have probably done it a frame earlier. See, look at this. Now they're rowing it in rather than really placing it. But again, that's probably 1 or 2 frames. Driving it through, pretty nice hang here. Look at this. That's very nice hang, right? This guy here tends to look like he's a little bit tense in his shoulders to me, right? I think this guy should keep his head up a little bit more. His head is very sort of down and forward. When I see something like this here, what I like to tell people is try to keep as much distance between the bottom of your ear and the top of the shoulder as possible. Keep that head up. That's going to draw the body up very nice. And by thinking of maximizing the distance between the ear and the shoulders will automatically relax because they will lower down on the body. They can move forward and back, meaning towards the bow and the stern, as they're sort of either drawing to the body or hanging through the drive. But you never want them coming up and down. You never want a vertical motion on those, because that's going to just be wasted energy up here on these muscles rather than using that energy and diverting it to these muscles to draw that blade to the body. So I think this guy could probably do with relaxing a little bit in the upper body here, sitting a little taller, getting that head up, increasing that distance between the ear and the shoulder. I think that would serve him well. But for the most part, like I say, the extractions are pretty nice. The extractions are very clean. It's going to let the boat run very well. All right, we got an overhead camera shot here that shows the distance between the crews. And look at this crew. They're looking solid, right? Look at this. They're getting nice clearance on the puddles, keeping the stroke long. They look very in sync here. That's a nice looking crew. That's good stuff, right? If you have a crew that's looking like that, you know that they are pretty well drilled and that they're moving the boat pretty good. They're moving the boat pretty good. Again, as we get closer, like we saw, previously, you're going to be able to fine tune stuff. But this is very nice to look at. All right, this is going to be the last race that I'm talking about before I stop this video. Princess Elizabeth Cup. We're just off the start here, And when we look at these crews off the start, the one thing that kind of jumps out to me a little bit here is uniformity of blades. So as we move away, we want to look at seeing how tight things are moving together. And I don't mean tight in the sense of, oh, are they tense? I just mean, are things incredibly uniform? So when we look at this, I guess the King School, that looks pretty uniform. Things are moving pretty good when you're jazzing it up off the start here. We start to see a little bit of breakdown off Moncton Combe, right? See, coming out a little bit. We've got different heights here on these blades as they're coming out. It's a little bit splashy. And when I see things that are splashy, that tells me that there's probably some feathering going on while they're still in the water. They're not making sure that they get a really good disconnect. See, look at the difference in heights on these blades, right? Difference in squaring times. Look at the blade heights. So it's just not quite as tight, not quite as snug. So that's sort of an indication to me that they might not have practiced starts quite as much, but more so just that each person is not feeling that boat and feeling the rhythm of the boat as much as they could be and really moving in sync. Something like this is again something I've mentioned in another video. I like eyes closed rowing for this kind of stuff. You do it in pairs, you do it in fours, you can even go to sixes, and ultimately you can go to eights, absolutely. But especially in pairs and fours, you can really feel any discrepancies that happen between each particular pair of people that are doing it. So you want to really focus on what is happening. What am I feeling the other people doing as much as what am I doing? Because we need to be in sync with every other person in that boat. And we need our athletes to be in sync with every other person in that boat in order to really lock these things in. The squaring, the feathering, the lifting of the hands to place the blade in, the starting of the drive, they all have to occur simultaneously, especially off the start, because that's when the boat is getting moving, and you want to bring it up to its race pace and race speed as quickly and effectively as possible while doing very little to upset. So here when I'm watching this, it's a little bit less tight, it's a little less snug. So like I say, I'd probably try to work on pairs and fours, doing a lot of eyes closed rowing, and really being on them about seeing any discrepancies and having them really try to feel what is going on with their partners rather than just what they're doing with their stroke. Still pretty close to the start here, obviously. We're not too far into this race. And this is something that might change as it progresses. We're looking at the close school here. King's College, I think it is. Look at this right here. So number one, they're rowing it in a little bit, but look at how much water is being kicked up around the shafts here. Okay, we're going to go forward. Look at that. When we see this sort of sheet of water coming off the shaft, that's an issue of blade depth and acceleration through the water. We're putting that blade maybe a little too deep because this here, what is that? What is that? That is the blade basically driving through the water, and that is going to be drag. Okay, that's drag. We don't want drag. And if we can out-accelerate that drag, mean keep this, well, I say the blade going through the water. It's actually the boat going by the blade at such a speed that we don't have that, well, that's fine. But in this case, we don't, right? And it's amazingly hard to do. You have to have really amazing acceleration to out-accelerate your blades being too deep. So again, we come through here, look again, we see it here, we see it here. We're going to come to the next stroke. And look at this. See, boom, now we see, look at this. Look at all this, look at this on all these blades here. Drag, 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 right? So look at this. Tell me that's not slowing the boat down. Okay, that is, look at it over here, right? This is slowing that boat down. And when I see blades going too deep, and again, we're going to see, look at this. Here comes blades too deep, right? Here's some blades too deep. Right, when we see stuff like this, look at this. Look at all this drag, all this drag. This is slowing that boat down for no other reason than just to slow it down. Okay, look at that, right? Look at that. We see we see just so much freaking drag on these blades. So much drag on these blades. Look at how they slam this. Look at that blade, how it slams into the water here, okay? And look, boom, so deep, so deep. Look at where that water is. Look at how deep that blade is. Look how deep this blade is, right? And again, if you want to demonstrate to your athletes how deep this is, right? Just lay a blade on the grass, take note of where this is, and have them put their fingers literally around the shaft there and say, this is how much of that blade was getting covered by water. And they will be astonished, because it is amazing at just how much of that blade then is in the water. And just, have them put that blade in the water with just with the shaft and try to freaking move it through the water. It'll be so heavy. It'll be so heavy to them, right? And you see the best crews. You see these good crews coming down, and they don't have any of this drag. They have very, very little of it. You see the spoons under the water, and that's about it, right? There's nothing slowing that boat down. So when you see this, that to me is an example of a crew that is, one, either undisciplined and they're just hammering away, or two, they are too jazzed up. They're too excited off the starts oftentimes, and they're letting the adrenaline get the better of them. Rather than controlling the adrenaline and using it to power the stroke, they're losing control of the stroke, right? And that's where we have to tell them it is a thinking man's sport. You have to be aware of what's going on. You have to be controlling all those physics forces to make that boat move, and you cannot just hammer away at it. This is why you get people that pull massive ergs. You put them in a boat and the boat goes backwards, okay? Not literally, but the boat just doesn't move, and it's because they've got a ton of power, but they're not applying it effectively. And they think, oh, I just have to pull harder. I just have to heave on that, or I just have to, jam it in and yank away. And that's not the case. It's rowing. It's not pulling, right? The sport is rowing. The sport is not pulling. It's not hammering. It's not yanking. Okay? You have to focus on these things, and you have to think, how deep is my blade? How am I going to progress that through? When I see stuff like this, that is something that, to me as a coach, when I'm coaching somebody, it's an inexcusable thing for an athlete who's serious about competing to do over an extended period of time. All right, so as we've progressed down the waterway a lot more, we see that these guys here are doing better now. They have reined this in, which leads me to think that a lot of it was probably early race adrenaline, right? But again, they have to control that. And now we can see that they're rowing it in there a little bit rather than placing, grabbing, and going. So now they're in, semi-cruise mode. They've got a good lead here. They should be feeling pretty relaxed. But see here, see this blade? There's a lot of rowing these blades in. This one here as well, right? They're moving forward. We're seeing a lot of drive from the hip, pushing it back before we see that blade get buried. So we don't want that to happen. We also see that, I'll mute this here. See, we can still see some blade depth issues where we're seeing them kick up a little bit of drag on these things. It's not near at all what it was, right? Not at all. See, but we do see some of it here, a little bit over there. So this is something. This is a good crew. They're going to be fast. They're going to be fit. They're going to be strong. We're seeing some differences in body angles. Look at this, disparate forces here, right? Look at these, and this is why, as a coach, I freaking love stripes on the side of uniforms, because you can very easily kind of see and compare what is going on with bodies. Okay, and when we see something like this again, they're going to be a good fast crew, but I do not see these guys really being a threat to take it all. I think that they are somebody that I would be cautious of if I was going into a race against them, because they probably have the ability to pull an upset and to be quick. But they're not somebody that if I was on one of the major player crews, I would probably say, okay, you know what, we're gonna have to be on our game, but we definitely should be be taking these guys out. I would watch for them to maybe win another round or two, and then maybe go home. Just for those reasons that we saw, right? They let their emotions get the best of them off the start, it looks like, and we don't see a lot of unity here as we go on. But they're stable. They tend to look pretty relaxed coming up the slide, etc. So they're a good crew. They're a good crew, absolutely. All right, so now it's all over. And King School, Chester, these guys did win, like I say. Clearly they were a step ahead of the other boat. But they definitely have some issues, right? They definitely have some issues. So there you go. So those are my thoughts on these next batch of races, and I will continue to go through this. This is killing me because I so want to just freaking rush through and watch all these races, but I also just want to give my thoughts as they're happening. So it's going to take me probably like freaking a month to get through the actual races at Henley. But hey, so it goes. There you go. Hopefully somebody watched this, and hopefully somebody got something out of it.